Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to this video. This is going to be our review session for radio commercials, PSAs, and television commercials for JOMC 244. I just want to be clear that when we met last in class last Tuesday, I did say that I was only going to post one video to Blackboard, and it was going to be both the class lecture session that I've already done for national TV commercials with the storyboards, and then on the back end of that was going to be this review session. But because my class lecture, even though you guys weren't there, seemed to run a little long, I decided I would make it into two videos. That way those of you who are definitely interested in watching the review more than once, it'll be a little easier to upload because it'll be a smaller file, and you can find things a lot easier than having to go through the entire video. So that's why I've broken it into two, so you will have two separate videos in the course content area on Blackboard. So one will be the video on national TV commercials with storyboards, and I went through a couple examples of those, and we'll review a little bit of that when we do this review. And but the overall bit of this video is reviewing everything. Well, I won't say everything we've done, because that's actually not going to be a fair assessment, but everything that will be on your quiz on Tuesday, November 14th. So you will have two assignments due on Tuesday, November 14th, your national commercial, and then a second national commercial with the storyboard. And then you'll also have the quiz. And so this quiz will be on radio commercials, TV commercials, and PSAs. And we'll just go over a lot of the things that we've talked about, but I know that these things will be on the quiz. I do want to say this: I am not giving you all the answers here. I'll discuss some things, but a lot of things are questions, and I'm letting you know these are questions that are on the quiz, but I'm not going to give you the answers right here because we went through them quite a bit in class, and you should either have them in your notes or you should know them. But this isn't, here's all the answers, this is all you need to study and know. So with that, we'll get started. Obviously, the most important thing we talked about before we even start to write a radio or TV commercial or a PSA is we want to know who is our target audience. We talked about that when we talked a little about the Hollywood scripts. We will talk about that when we get into broadcast news writing. But knowing who your target audience is vitally important. So my question is, what is a target audience? And the clever folks who don't know the answer might just say, well, that's the audience you're targeting. And that is true. But what is it that we're looking for? So that's what that question is. And how do we accomplish that? So the question is, what is the target audience, or what is a target audience? And then secondly, why is knowing your target audience, why is knowing your target audience so important for the scriptwriter? In other words, before you write, if you know who your target audience is, well, the simple answer here is you will write to that audience, because you will write differently for an audience that's young and perhaps more African American than for an older audience that might be Latino or Hispanic or white. The kind of words you use, the kind of phrases, the lingo. We'll see that, and we've seen that in examples in class when we saw some commercials. Different target audiences are written to differently. So you should know why that's so important. And basically, our target audience is broken down into demographics. So I will ask you, what are demographics? And we answered a lot of different ways in class, but they are basically the statistical categories that we might group people in. And there are three most obvious ones. Well, I have a second part of this, and how do advertisers use demographics? And so we'll get into that in a second. But our three most obvious ones, you should be able to name and identify at least 8 to 10 different demographic categories. Okay? Those aren't hard. And it's more than just remembering from a list, it's actually just using common sense. So our three most obvious ones that we always talk about in class are age, race, and gender. But I said you should know 8 to 10. Well, remember in class we started breaking down demographics into geography, the region of the country you live in, the language that you speak, what religion you are, what is your socioeconomic status, what is your education level. All of those are demographics. And then demographics then certainly can be combined. And that's how you start to really get your target audience. Because if I am trying to market a product for African American women between 18 to 25 who are living in the Southeast, who have a lot of money and are Baptist, well, that's a very niche target market. But if I know all that information, that this is kind of who we think will get our product, who will buy our product, then I can start to search out and tailor what kind of television shows or what kind of programming or what kind of radio stations I should place my commercials on, because that's the kind of audience that watches those shows or listens to that radio station. And that's how advertisers use demographics. They use that statistical information to help them place the commercials. But they also, it'll help actually the script writer write it. If I know that this is my audience, I can actually tailor my script to that audience. And again, different audiences, whether it's because of age or race or gender or religion, we might write differently for. So that's how demographics and target audiences are used. But they're very important before you ever get started, because that will affect how you write. In fact, that's actually going to be a PowerPoint slide, I think, that'll pop up a couple times in this review, is how does this affect the script writer. We did talk about this, we won't go into all kinds of details, but what is the most desired age range advertisers crave in seeking a target audience? And I think we went over this enough that everybody should know it. I will go ahead and say it again. It's the 18 to 35 range. So the next question is why? So what is it about that age range, 18 to 35, that advertisers are really seeking out? It doesn't mean that we don't make commercials and that we're not trying to get older people to buy our products. It's also not that there are lots and lots and lots of products aimed at younger kids and teenagers. But the most desired range is 18 to 35. So hopefully you guys can remember why. I won't go with everything, but I will just briefly say, remember of all the firsts that come in people's life in that age range. So there's actually a certain independence that comes with certain ages in that range. So when you're 18, for the first time, you could have graduated from high school. You could be out on your own. Up to then, most decisions, family decisions, and basically financial ones, were made by the parents. But if you become 18, or in some places 21, you gain a certain amount of independence. If you go to college, then maybe age 22 or 23, after you're out, you've gained a great bit of independence. And with that independence, whether it starts at 18 or 23 or even later, you get a lot of firsts. you get your first job perhaps. And with your first job, well, then for the first time, you might actually buy a car. You might actually get your first apartment that your name's going to go on the lease. And with that, you may need to furnish the apartment, not only with just furniture, but household products. So advertisers know that at this age range, you're getting a lot of firsts. And they're banking on that you have not made lifelong decisions. There is a bit of impulsiveness with that age range, but also this new disposable income. We know you are going to have to buy certain products, and we don't think that you've made decisions yet. Older people get set in their ways. This is why advertisers don't crave that audience, because it's harder to get them to switch products, to come on and become a Coke man if you've drank Pepsi all your life and you're 55 years old. You are not generally inclined to switch to Coke. Even though they're going to advertise, they're going to hope to get you, but they know that the chances are less. But if you're out buying soft drinks for the first time in your life, as you go grocery shopping, as you get your new apartment, and you know, time after time, always run to the grocery store and you know, you like soft drinks, well, Coca-Cola is going to try to get you at that age. You know, they're going to make themselves try to look better than Pepsi, and vice versa, because they know if you start to buy it at age 23, when you first have this independence and this newly found income, well, they hope is that you continue on when you're 24, when you're 25, when you're 26, and it just becomes a pattern that you are now a Coke person and that you will drink it for the rest of your life. And hopefully, in their minds, pass it down to your kids and the like. So that's the most desired age range. It's 18 to 35. I think we gave an example in class where, so it's a television show like NCIS, which is almost always the #1 rated show in a week with the Nielsen ratings, which you would think would then mean, well, they can charge more for advertising than any other show. That really isn't the case, because their audience, while vast, is also an older audience. And so some of the shows that are, you know, below them, you know, not way below, but let's say still in the top 10, that maybe cater to a younger audience, like an Empire, can charge more for commercial break than the #1 rated show, because they're targeting and they're reaching the right audience, the audience that advertisers want. So that's kind of important to know, because that, as the slide says, and as I said I would say it a few times, how does that affect you as the script writer? So I kind of gave some reasons there. I'm going to let you think about that and fill that in on your own. And again, I sort of answered this one too. How do you cater a finished radio or TV commercial to the target audience? Well, you want to know what your target audience is, and then you kind of figure out what shows and what programming or what radio genres that my target audience listens to, that they watch. What kind of shows do they watch? And then these are the kind of shows that I want to get my commercials on, because it will be very effective if I can reach the right target audience. And that's also why some shows don't need huge ratings to stay afloat, because if they have enough advertisers that want to advertise to that specific target audience, to that demographic that watches it. A good example are a lot of the fix it up yourself shows, or on Home and Garden and those kind of things, the house flipping shows. They don't have huge audiences, but it is an audience that is pretty specific in age range and income level, that watch it on a continuous basis, time after time. And so advertisers know that, and there are certain products that want to cater specifically to that audience. and so they don't have any trouble charging for revenue and having enough commercial time. And unfortunately, shows that have those kind of troubles that advertisers don't want to advertise on, whether we think they're high quality or not, because advertising really completely runs the television and radio business. I mean, the commercial stations wouldn't exist without advertising. If we can't get people to advertise, or they can't charge enough to cover the production expenses, that's why we see a lot of times our favorite shows get canceled. So that's usually what it has to do. A lot of it does mean that people aren't watching it. Well, if people aren't watching it, then advertisers don't want to advertise on it. But it's also vice versa. If the wrong people, meaning a demographic that can't get enough advertising, are the ones that are watching, then same thing can happen. So that's why we see our favorite shows come and go every few years. All right, so this is an interesting question. Why is simplicity in writing important in radio and TV commercial scripts? Well, we did say, and we didn't mean to be insulting, but we don't want to actually write over the head of anybody in our target audience or anybody that might actually be watching. So we have to try to cater to the, sort of the least common denominator. Because if we go over the heads of everybody, then people will tune out. They will not want to watch that commercial. They'll not even pay attention. And we know what people do when they don't want to watch a commercial. They will flip the channel. We get into that in a second with our attention grabber. We know that people actually don't even want to watch commercials. So we have to keep it very informative, but also very simple. We only want to have 1 or 2 ideas per sentence. If we start giving more than 1 or 2 ideas per sentence, we're giving too much at once. That's what we mean by keeping it simple. Let's keep these short, crisp, concise sentences, just 1 or 2 sentences. Whether it's an announcer or whether it's even an actor in an ad, we don't usually run on and have lots and lots of thoughts per sentences. Just kind of short, 1 or 2 ideas per sentence, so that the idea gets into the consumer's head and then they can ingest it and then hear the next thing. So this is like, especially when we talk about benefits, you don't want to just list ad nauseum all the benefits. Break them up into nice sentences so that each one sounds like it has its own weight in importance. So now let's go to what actually goes into the commercials. And we talked about the 4 basic elements of writing a good radio commercial. So the radio commercial, of course, is a little bit different from the TV commercial in that we don't have images. And we said that really is the number one difference. But the 4 basic elements, and there is no format that it has to be done this way, although we do typically see sort of this layout the way I'm going to list them 1, 2, 3, 4. But number 1 is you have to mention the product. You have to mention the product because you cannot see it. So that's a big difference in television advertising, is we can mention the product by not mentioning it, but we show it. And then the audience understands what the product is. But in radio, you have to mention it. And in a 30-second radio ad, you probably have to mention it about 3 times. You really should mention it somewhere up at the beginning, then somewhere in the middle, and then again towards the end, whether you with your call to action or whether you're just helping the audience remember what the commercial is, maybe with a jingle or a slogan. So mention the product, number 1. Number 2, discuss the benefits. So, okay, so you have a product, but what everybody is asking is, well, how does it affect me? How does it benefit me? Because I'm not that interested in your pain medicine if I don't know that it works, that it benefits me. Oh, my headache will go away. Oh, my numbing toothache, my backache. Oh, it'll help with this too? So that's the kind of thing. You need to list the benefits. Oh, it's all natural ingredients. So that's very important. So we want to mention the product and discuss the benefits. Here's what our product or our service or my store, my business can do for you. So that's number 2, discuss the benefits. In a radio commercial and a local TV commercial, we really have to offer an incentive or an enticement. We need to get you to come down to our place of business. I need to get you to go out and buy this product. I need you to pick up the phone and give us a call. So we as consumers, though, say, okay, well, you've mentioned the product, you've discussed the benefits, but, you know, you got to do something more from me. You have to offer me an enticement. What's my benefit? Or what's my incentive for going out and buy this? So this is where we get all those buzzwords like discounts and 50% off and BOGO, buy one get one free, sale, won't last long. These are all phrases that entice people because people love to save money. People love a sale. Now that doesn't mean that just because we say it's a sale, it actually really is. But in people's mind, if you are telling them it's on sale, they would rather run and buy something that's on sale, thinking they're saving money, than maybe some other place that's basically selling it at the same price, but that's their regular price. Oh, but I can go to JCPenney and get it on sale. So that's why we have those words. That's why we actually offer incentives and enticements, because we don't want the audience to just watch or listen to our commercial. We need them to take action right away. And so that's our 4th thing, is a call to action. And we get them to act by mentioning the product so they remember what it is, telling them that there's benefits, but offering them an incentive, a benefit to come down to get it. And so that's the call to action. You really, in a radio commercial and local TV commercial, have to say, you need to get off your butt and go out and get this. Now, don't say it like that, but that's sort of the thought. Because commercials are in real time. And so after a 30-second commercial is over, it's gone. Now they may see it again because, commercials can run many times in any one day or a week, but the call to action is to get them to do something right away. So, don't delay. And sometimes we even say limited supplies only. Those are the kind of incentives to call them to action, because you have to say, so come visit us now. Come visit us today. Visit us at our website. You have to tell the audience they need to come do this. So it's called a call to action, because we want them to buy our product. And we're just telling them straight out, we want you to buy our product. We want you to come to our store. I want you to hire me as your plumber. So that's the call to action. So don't delay. Don't wait until your pipes are already frozen. Give us a call today. So that's how those all work. So those are the 4 basic elements of writing a good radio commercial. And we'll see all 4 of those elements in a local TV commercial. We may not see all of them in the national TV commercial. Certainly mentioning the product and discussing the benefits, although that actually might not necessarily be verbally. It might not be part of the audio. That could actually be part of the video. Mentioning the product by seeing the product and showing what the benefits are. And I think on the storytelling video, I gave the example that I think we also used in class of, you can drink a Mountain Dew, and then we see the people going whitewater rafting. Well, that's what we are inferring through the video, letting the pictures tell the story, that the benefits are, if you drink our product, you'll have lots of fun with your friends because it'll make you popular. So that's the kind of thing. But in a national commercial, we're not going to see the offer for an incentive, and the call to action is a little different. It's generally more of a trying to get the audience to remember our product, and that's where jingles and slogans work really well in national commercials. It's sort of the call to action because we want to keep that keep the product name or our business name in the back of people's minds, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. And certainly having a good commercial or a memorable commercial does that, but as does humor and memorable music or well-known music. You know, some people will relate certain Beatles songs right now with certain products, and by the same token, jingles. We all know some jingles, and that right away we think of a product, and all you have to do is go da 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 da, and you're thinking McDonald's. And if it's around lunchtime, and whether it's consciously or unconsciously, you're da 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 daing in your head, you may say to your friends, "Hey, let's go to McDonald's today." And that's what McDonald's hopes you do because of things like the jingle. Alright, so why is an attention grabber so important in writing a PSA, a radio commercial, or a TV commercial? So we've gone over this so many times, but so in a nutshell, people don't want to watch our commercials. They don't want to listen to the radio commercials. So almost instinctively, as soon as commercials come on, people are ready to grab the remote and switch the station. If you're in the car, switch the radio stations. So we have to grab their attention as the script writer, but even as those who produce the commercials, right away. Right away. We really only have 3 to 5 seconds to do that. If we don't, we're probably going to lose them, and they're going to turn away and watch something else. And that's what's probably the most ironic thing about the whole advertising industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It really is the backbone that allows television programming and radio programming to exist in a non-paying form. And yet we as consumers, even though we need all the products generally that are being advertised, we don't really want to watch it. We don't really want to listen to it. But we do. We do when something grabs our attention. Even if it's a commercial that we've seen before, because we know this jingle's coming at the end, or we just love flow. We love flow. So even though we've seen the commercial, we're going to watch flow in the Progressive ads or the Gecko because they're humorous. So that's why an attention grabber is so important, because if we don't grab their attention, it doesn't matter how great our commercial is. It doesn't matter what our production value is. It doesn't matter how memorable we make it at the end, because they may not make it to the end to watch it. We need to grab them right away. And here's the other interesting thing is, if people actually do sit and watch a television commercial, familiarity is such that when that commercial comes on the next time, they will be less likely to want to turn away because they're familiar with it. They're comfortable with it. So what are some typical attention grabbers in radio commercials and PSAs? I'm not going to list them all. I'll just give you some that we mentioned in class, but certainly music would be one, especially memorable or well-known music. Well-known music. A jingle is another type of music. Certainly a celebrity. If we have a celebrity come on right away giving a product endorsement, yeah, people love Beyonce. Hey, that's Beyonce. I love her. I'm going to see what she has to say. And that's what we do. So then that's our attention grabber. We watch that. So again, a jingle or a slogan, we mentioned that. You can have a sound effect. That works a lot of times in radio. We don't see quite as much in TV, but there is certainly some. But for radio, sound effects, both radio and TV. Here's another one. How about asking a pertinent question? Why can't you get out of bed in the morning? And then you say, yeah, you know what, that's me sometimes. Sometimes I have trouble getting up. So then I might listen and see what the product is. So asking pertinent questions. There's a lot of them. There's a lot more than that. That's just a few just to get us going in this. Is that the same question? Okay. Oh, no. Okay, so the first one was for radio commercials. So the second one is, what are some typical attention grabbers in TV commercials and TV PSAs? So I actually was sort of giving a whole bunch. But they can break it down into radio and TV. Like I said, sound effects, definitely radio. Music, big in radio, but also big in TV. A celebrity voice for radio, but you can actually see the celebrity in TV. The pertinent question can be for both of them. But the one big difference, attention grabber for TV, is the visual images. I mean, right away you can show things that you can't in radio. So we could actually use just the image that's on the screen, whether it's splashy colors, whether it's an exotic location, whether it's a beautiful looking sports car, or certainly society has a concept of what makes a beautiful person, or what, and so if we see that, a lot of people are going to say, oh, I like the way that person looks, I'm going to watch this commercial. So just the image itself can be vitally important. That first shot in a TV commercial can be used as an attention grabber. We talked about this in class. What are some differences between TV commercials made in and for a local market, such as Greensboro or Asheville or Wilmington, and TV commercials made for nationwide broadcasting? So the TV commercials for local market are specific to that market. So they have a very limited audience. So, if it's just for Greensboro, in our market, we have Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem, and the areas beyond, but nobody else will see the commercial beyond that. So we're not really looking at national products, or really probably any products hardly at all. Mostly local TV commercials are for businesses and services. Whereas nationwide, it's much more likely that it's for a product or a national chain, like a Walmart or a McDonald's, if it's a business. Obviously then with that, if we're going to reach a much smaller audience, regardless of what our target audience is, and it's mostly local businesses, meaning small businesses that are doing the advertising, the commercials are going to have a lot less money put into them. That's just the way it is. So that the production values are going to be much less. So it's these local commercials where we see the Crazy Eddies yelling at the consumers or yelling at the TV screen, and if you don't live in that market, you might look at Crazy Eddie and say, why would anybody listen or buy from this guy? But for where Crazy Eddie is, maybe he's in Portland, then people in Portland might know him as a celebrity. And so they watch his commercials because they're like, oh, that's Crazy Eddie. He's dropping prices, and to some people it would look ridiculous that he's literally dropping electronics and breaking them, but maybe for the Portland market that really works. So those are some of the main differences. The most differences we're going to see is in production value, the amount of money that's put into the commercials. And national commercials don't just typically get made and then put on television. We talked about advertising agencies, that most of them go through those, and so we'll take a look at that in a second. But why is it so much easier and cheaper to produce a 30-second radio commercial as opposed to a 30-second TV commercial? So you guys all know the answer to this. In a radio commercial, we could literally write it in class and run it upstairs to WNAA and get it on the air and have just the DJ read it. That's how easy it is to produce a 30-second radio commercial. Even if we went a little more complex, we go into the Radio Lab, we could probably get a 30-second commercial ready to go on the air within an hour without too much trouble. But a 30-second TV commercial, I mean, even the most simplest ones, you're talking about hiring actors, hiring crew. You may have to go out on location. When you go out on location, you may have to, all these other secondary expenses, such as lodging perhaps, but definitely catering and things like that. There's much more post-production on a television commercial. Somebody has to edit it. Somebody has to get music into it and all this kind of stuff. So it really is night and day in terms of expenses. And certainly then for national commercials, if you go through advertising agencies, it's just another level of expense that makes it much more expensive. But of course, much more expensive can also mean much better, quality-wise, and able to reach more markets. You can acquire rights to better music or well-known music, maybe get yourself a celebrity. But that's the big difference between producing radio and TV. I mean, radio, we can do it because we don't have to worry about the visuals, and the backside editing can be relatively simple. Alright, so I just answered this. Do local TV commercials or national TV commercials generally have larger budgets? So obviously it's national TV commercials. Which of the two almost always have higher production values? So that's basically almost self-explanatory. It's the national TV commercials, because so much more money, so many more people are involved with it. And so the answer is why. That was why. So that's the question. So how will this affect you as a script writer? Well, it really is good to know, for you to know, do you know what the budget is for this commercial? Do you know whether you can afford to write it so that your setting can be somewhere other than just the local car lot? Can you rent studios? Can you go on location? How much crew are you able to have? Can you put in all these special effects or CGI? So if you know the budget, it is going to affect how you write. What does your client want? Do they just want something simple where the boss of the business, the owner of the business, is on camera? If that's the case, you may feel like you have to write a very simple script, because he may not be an actor. He might not really, he or she, be comfortable in front of the camera. So the more you know going in, the more it's going to affect you as a script writer to make your script stronger. Why is a local TV commercial more similar in content to a radio commercial than a national TV commercial? Well, because the format's very similar in that you discuss you mention the product, discuss the benefits, and then in a local TV commercial, because generally it's a local business and you want to tell people how to get down to it, and you can literally offer them an enticement or an incentive, free to the first 500 people in the door on Saturday. So it has those same, mention the product, discuss the benefits, offer an incentive or enticement, and a call to action. So visit us. We're at the corner of Elm and Bessemer. So a call to action. But you're not going to see that in most national TV commercials, the call to action or even the incentive. But you will see the product, and a lot of times you'll hear it discussed, but it's in terms of mentioning the product. You may hear somebody mention the product, but you know you're going to see it. You know you're going to see it. And discuss the benefits. Yeah, you need to know what the benefits are in a national TV commercial, just like a local TV commercial. But you're probably not going to get the incentive. The big key for national commercials is, how can I get you to remember it? How can I get you to think that this is a memorable commercial? And that's why it almost kind of goes full circle, in that we almost have like an attention grabber at the end. That's what jingles and slogans are, but it's designed to make you remember. And if you remember, then we hope you will be called to action when you go to the store and you need corn chips, that you remember in the back of your mind Frito-Lays from our commercials, from our slogan, from our jingle. We just answered this a little bit ago. What group of people are generally the middlemen who produce and distribute national television commercials? So that's advertising agencies. So you have your company or your corporations here, and you have your consumers here. But their business right here might be making hardware. It's not making commercials, but they want to get the information about their products to the consumers, and that's right, we're here in the middle. That's where advertising agencies. So they will generally write a script, they will do the storyboard, they will pitch the ideas, and if they're big enough advertising agency, they might actually produce the commercial. If they don't produce the commercial, they will probably hire a video production house to do it. So they generally take care of virtually everything when it comes to making a commercial when they're hired by a national company or corporation. All right, why is simplicity important in radio and TV commercial scripts? I think we already talked about that when we said 1 or 2 ideas per sentence, or just a limit of 1 or 2 ideas per sentence, because we don't really want to go over anyone's head in our target audience. So the simpler it is, the easier it is to understand. You know, nothing's worse than getting somebody to actually watch your commercial and they're confused by what you're actually advertising or what you're saying your product does. So the more simple it is, the easier it is for a vast audience to understand it. What would you state several times, particularly in a radio commercial? Okay, that would be the product. That would be the product. I think we went over that a second ago. And why is this somewhat less important in a TV commercial? Because in a TV commercial, you can actually see the product. You can shoot a series of shots and constantly keep the product in the shot, usually with the label facing the camera. I think we saw that Coca-Cola commercial that was in Spanish, but it told a story, and we never once didn't know that this was a commercial for Coca-Cola, because they never said this is for Coca-Cola, but in every single shot somebody was either drinking or holding or running with the Coca-Cola. Alright, how is the TV commercial template different from the format for radio commercials? Well, very simple. Our TV commercials, we had the 2-column format. On our left-hand side, we have video, and on our right-hand side, we have audio. So we have a 2-column format that just sequentially will go down. So one video shot, what's the audio with that? Second video shot, what's the audio with that? Well, we don't have that in radio. We don't have that in radio because we have no video. So it's really just more of a prose type script. We designated certain ways to write in music, to write in sound effects, but then if somebody's talking, we just kind of put the person's name with a colon and have what they say. And then if there's a second person, have that person's name and then what they say. Because we don't have to worry about matching it up with any video. There are no images. So writing a radio commercial format-wise is certainly much easier than writing a TV commercial. What would go on the audio side of a 2-column TV commercial script? Well, just what I said. If we had music, there's a way we're going to capitalize and underline all music. If it was a sound effect, we would capitalize all the description of sound effect. And if it's a character or a person or even a voiceover, an announcer, those are the kind of things that go on the audio side. So what goes on the video side? Well, this is how I envision this scene looking. So you basically are describing, you might be describing the character. A young teenage boy is sitting at the breakfast table. His mom hovers over him, ready to pour some Kellogg's Corn Flakes into his bowl. So that's describing the shot that you think will be the first shot of your commercial. And then the next one, you might have close-up of the Kellogg's Corn Flakes cereal box in mom's hand. Then the third one, corn flakes being poured into a bowl. And you might say from the perspective of the bowl with the corn flakes coming down, almost like snow. So you're just basically on the video side describing the way you envision the commercial would end up going, what the visuals would be for that commercial. Alright, so I'm going to go quickly through the rest of this. I'm not going to give you the answer for this one because you should know it. If you don't, go back through some notes. But what are public service announcements? Okay? Obviously, some people don't say this. They are announcements for the public. Well, they are, but that doesn't really define what we want to know about them. They are announcements in the public interest that are designed to inform or to educate about a certain cause or an issue or maybe an event. So that's in a nutshell, but go back through your notes. There's more to that I want you to know. Why are PSAs more closely related to public relations than advertising? Again, I don't want to go over this completely because I know we talked about this a great deal, but just keep in mind, in a nutshell, advertising is designed to sell you a product. PSAs are not designed to sell you something, although they may ask for money, but they are more designed to inform you or to educate you about something in the public interest. But advertising, we want you to buy our product. We want to get you in our store. So that's kind of the opening parameters for you to find the answer to that. What are the two major entities that sponsor public service announcements? Well, we said that virtually all public service announcements are going to be made by non-profit organizations for a cause or an event that they might have coming up, or for the government. The government has a lot of programs, so only you can prevent forest fires. So, don't smoke in the forest. That's the U.S. Forest Service is a government agency. They're putting that message out there to inform and to educate. A lot of times it does actually boil down to money, because forest fires can be expensive not only to fight, but we lose the forest. We lose the forest, maybe we lose some of the animals in the animal kingdom, or just the fact that the foliage is gone might lead to health problems for humans. Smoking. Well, they keep telling us to stop smoking. These are public service announcements because it is a health issue. It is in the public interest to stop smoking. The health interest is if more people stop smoking, people's health are better. It actually would lessen, hopefully, the burden that it causes on hospitals and doctors, but also maybe hopefully keeps everybody's insurance rates down. So, but those are the two major entities: nonprofit organizations and the government. And that could be the local government, the state government, or the federal government. What are some elements of writing a good PSA? Well, what should be in a PSA? So one of the things I wanted to remind you about PSAs is that they're a little closer, obviously, as we said, public relations, but they're more of a news writing kind of thing. That they will have the elements, or what I like to call the tenets of journalism 101. But a good PSA should have the who, what, when, where, why, and how. It really should not leave any questions unanswered. If I have questions about what your cause is or how I can help, it probably hasn't been an effective PSA. But a PSA, if we actually look at it like the radio commercial, so what is the product? Well, it's not a product per se in terms of the way we think of advertising products, but the product might be what is the cause or the issue. What is the event that you are hoping that we'll come to and donate shoes or donate a coat or something like that. And then you need to discuss the benefits. What's the benefits of your nonprofit organization or the cause that you are talking about in this PSA? And so what I mean by that is, in terms of, for advertising, we think of benefits. How does this benefit us? In a PSA, how does this benefit other people? That's always a good one. We don't typically in PSAs see an offer for enticement. We're not asking them to give us an incentive. We just don't see that in PSAs, but we will see a call to action. This is actually very important. Why should we have the call to action? Well, if I am talking about this cause or issue or event, basically, most of the time we're asking you to somehow give of your time, to give, to volunteer, or to give money for the cause. So I need to tell you that. I need to tell you we need your coats to help keep people warm in our community. Won't you give today? Won't you please send a check for $35 that this will keep one family in Africa fed for 6 months. Okay, so that's your call to action. We'll see that in, and so that's with that. What do we mean by call to action? And this leads right into the next thing. What are some ways you can capture an audience's attention with a PSA? Well, we have the same attention grabbers. But the main thing we do in PSAs is we really tug on the heartstrings. We try to get people emotional. Because when we are emotional, we actually remember things better. We remember the emotions. And so that helps us remember your cause or your issue or your event. So emotions, and you know, the most obvious one we always kept using in class was the Sarah McLachlan song, "In the Arms of the Angels." Whenever we hear that song, it tugs us, because even if we're not even watching a PSA, it makes us think of the SPCA. Makes us think of abused dogs and what we can do to help them get good homes and stop animal abuse. But sadness is not the only emotion. Happiness. A PSA can make you feel happy. A PSA can make you angry. You know, do you know this many young men are killed in the street each year? No, I didn't know that. That makes me angry. What can I do to help? So it really runs the gamut of all emotions. It's not just sadness or happiness or anger, but that's the number one way we try to capture the audience's attention with PSA, is through emotional response. But it's the same thing for the TV PSA. The images can do it. If we had a celebrity talking about our cause, that can be used as an attention grabber. Music, humor, same way. But more than anything else, emotion. And should this be done at the beginning or the end of a PSA? Especially this emotional response. Because a lot of times you think, well, if we see it right at the end, it'll help us remember better. And in TV commercials, we do see that. We a lot of times see something that makes us kind of laugh and have that emotion at the end, helps us remember the product. But again, if we don't see it at the beginning, a PSA is just like a radio commercial or a TV commercial. Our audience is apt to turn away if they're not interested, if their attention hasn't been captured in that first few seconds. So if you are going to have an attention grabber, just make sure it's right there at the beginning. You can have that emotion at the end too. That's great, but don't rely on it at the end because people might not be around to actually see your PSA if they haven't had their attention grabbed at the very beginning. So we just actually just answered this. How does emotion play into the viewer or listener watching a hearing or watching or hearing a PSA? We respond to our own emotions, and we remember things based on our own emotions. So if a commercial can make us emotional, we will respond, and we will remember that commercial or that PSA. So emotion plays a huge part into it. Most PSAs include contact information. We don't see that in commercials very much. It's very hard to watch something that's only going to be on for 30 seconds, and the way we watch it, to write down a phone number or even a website address, unless it's something that's easy to remember, such as ncat.edu. Oh, that's North Carolina A&T. I can remember that. But if it's something with a bunch of numbers and letters and it's not even a .com but a .org, it becomes a little more difficult. So we don't see it a lot in commercials, but PSAs almost always will have contact information. So my question is, why would you list essential information for viewers or listeners, or that viewers or listeners need to know? Well, it basically boils down to you're not selling anything. So you're asking people to get involved. You're asking them to volunteer their time or to donate something or even to spend money on a cause or an issue. A lot of times people aren't just going to do that just based on your 30-second or 60-second PSA. They might want to know more about your organization. They might want to know about where is this really going. And if you can provide those details, whether it's through a phone call, or whether it's through a website, you have a better chance of getting more responders. Because quite typically, most people don't just give to a cause or an organization based on one PSA. They will actually do a little bit of research. So if you can list some essential information, such as for more information, visit this site, or you can pick up a pamphlet at your local library, or call this number, that's important for a PSA. That is important so that you can get your information out even at a later time to somebody. You know, they might visit your website. They may not do it while they're driving down the road, you know, but if it is important enough and there's some emotion that sticks with them and they say, yeah, I'm going to visit that website, or I need to know more about this organization, I need to know more about this cause. If you have some place for them to contact, it just makes PSAs much more effective in terms of the response. Alright, so this is what we did in the other video. So I'm not even going to answer this question, because this question is what the other video was 100% about, and I actually go over this at the beginning of the other video. But it isn't that hard. Most of you gave the answer in class anyway. But the question is, what is a storyboard? Okay? But that will be on the quiz. There's no doubt about that. And why would we use a storyboard in a TV commercial or a TV PSA? And I go into that in great detail on the other video too. So I'm just going to leave you guys with that to watch the other video if you don't know it already. Alright, so we did talk about this, the 5 types of persuasion. And the 5 types of persuasion, these have to do with sort of the formats or the kinds of things that we make our commercials with. It's not the language of the persuasion. That we did have a lesson where we did talk about what are some persuasive language and what are some things to say. But this is just kind of the overarching formats. So this is this is what our commercial is, and this is how we're going to try to persuade the audience. So the number one, and it's not in a descending order. There's 5 of them, and there is no number 1, number 3, or anything. But the first one is the straight sell, and that's just generally done with an announcer. And these are also for radio and or TV. But a straight sell. I have a product. I'm going to tell you what the product does. I'm not going to try to con you or anything. That this is just a straight sell. You know, we have the best honey on, in North Carolina. Okay, I'm not going to try to get you with emotion, but I'm just going to try to give it to you straight. A straight sell. Another way is the testimonial. And then we have 2 main kind of testimonials. We have the celebrity testimonial, where if we have a celebrity, we all love celebrities, right? Or I like that person, oh, she's a big star. If she likes this product, maybe I would like this product because I think that, she won't steer me wrong. There's a lot of different thoughts about celebrities. They wouldn't steer us wrong. If they like it, it must be good. Or just because we admire them, that, hey, I want to be like them. We'll buy this product. So we have the celebrity testimonial. The other kind of testimonial is what we call the man in the street. And we see that with a lot of, I think, these Chevy truck commercials. But basically, we have just regular people saying, boy, I really didn't know that Chevy trucks were that great. Or, boy, I'm not going to buy a Ford anymore. I'm a Chevy person from now on. So, and that's just one example because there's all kinds of testimonial commercials. But the idea is that, well, if that person likes it, and that person's kind of like me, right? That's just a regular working stiff, and yeah, I need to drive a truck too. And if that guy, it works for that guy, and he seems like he's like me, and he seems like he knows what he's talking about, maybe I should try a Chevy truck. But that's what a testimonial is. If someone says, this is the best, Chili's has the best seasoned fries on the market, and then everyone else says, oh yeah, Chili's, you can't go wrong with their seasoned fries. And, well, that's a testimonial. Everybody is testifying or saying that Chili's seasoned fries are the best. And so the idea is, well, if everybody likes it, I think I probably would like it too. But that's what a testimonial is. Typically, we like to think of testimonials as being real people and not actors, but actually most of these commercials use actors trying to be real people. Not that they aren't real people, but they're also actors too. So in some ways they're real people, but they're in the industry, so it's not like they don't have some sort of presence in front of a camera. But that's what a testimonial is. So we have those 2 types. The third is the dramatization, and the dramatization again doesn't mean drama, but it's basically any kind of small scene, or you call it a mini movie or a sketch, but generally something with actors in it. That's really what most commercials are. They have an actor or 2. So I think I gave an example of earlier, a little kid with his mom at the breakfast table. That's a dramatization. Now, it can be a funny commercial, and it can have humor and all these other things, and certainly we see 5 types of persuasion. You can have 1, 2, 3, or 4, maybe even all 5 types of persuasion in a commercial. Most are going to have more than one. But most commercials are actually dramatizations. That's just the way it is. You can have a dramatization that's a straight sell. You can have testimonial dramatization, are probably the 2 of 5, we haven't even got to the last 2, that you'll almost never see together, because either it's a testimonial or it is a dramatization. Typically they're not, those 2 aren't the same. But we're going to see music. Music's a big way to persuade people, particularly if you can get music that's well known. Whether it's hit music, whether it's oldies, there's a lot of old time songs, Joe Cocker, Little Help from My Friends, is playing in a big commercial now that makes it look like people are back in the 60s. Recognizable music is a huge persuasion, a huge way to persuade people. You are, again, it goes to the emotions, but we hear music and it gives us certain emotions. Some music takes us back, some music makes us think of hanging out with our friends in the club, but we use that music, then we kind of associate it with this product, and it's really a huge way to try to persuade people. Almost all commercials have music in them, but not all are necessarily used as persuasion. If it's just kind of background music, that's not really used as persuasion. It's probably used to make the commercial production value better. But certainly if it's music that's well known, can create emotion in you. But also then a jingle. A jingle would be the other kind of music that can be used to kind of persuade. And there's a lot of jingles out there. I'm not going to sing any for you, but there's a lot of jingles that we remember. And we will watch a commercial, even though we've seen the commercial before, because we just want to hear the jingle at the end. And that's how we've been persuaded. And it's partly emotion, but partly the commercial makes us remember. They all kind of work together. So the fifth type of persuasion is then humor. And quite frankly, a lot of commercials nowadays are trying to be funny. There's a lot of commercials that try to be funny. And humor is a big part of that nowadays, much more than it used to be. Humor's hard to write. As I know some of you have tried to put some humor in some of your commercials, and it's not real easy because different people have different tastes. And humor is probably the one thing where people start to get insulted. Some people don't understand sarcasm. Some people can't take a joke. So you always have to be a little careful, but humor is often used as a type of persuasion. And then we'll close out our review with our three types of appeals. So even though we're trying to persuade people, those are the types of ways that we persuade them. This is different, but how do we appeal to the folks? And there's really only three ways. And they're very simple. Most of you remember this, although you may remember the Latin words from 220. I believe JOMC 220, you got this. But the three types of appeals are an ethical appeal. Well, in radio and TV commercials, we're not going to see an ethical appeal very much. But in PSAs are going to have an ethical appeal well over 75% of the time. They're going to try to appeal to us in an ethical manner. Because, look, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Drunk driving is not good. And they're going to let us know that. They are going to try to appeal to us on our ethical level that you should not drive drunk. And we see that with all kinds of PSAs. But we don't see it in radio or TV commercials so much. Mostly because, quite frankly, a lot of advertisers aren't overly ethical. I mean, they will pull a little con job on you to get to buy your product. Now, they can't lie to you, but sometimes they can bend the truth, or sometimes, a lot of times, I think we talked about this, is advertisements will say things that, you're like, that can't possibly be true, but it's also something that can't really be checked, We have the best chicken wings in town. I don't know, do you? You say you do, and so that's kind of an opinion, but that's not really fact-based. But so you don't see that a lot in TV commercials. But you do see this in both PSAs and commercials is a logical appeal. Although it too isn't that often that it's used, but often enough, let's say. it's certainly used more than ethical appeal. It's not used as much as the last appeal, which we'll get to in a second. But logical appeal is just very simple. I mean, you have basic want and needs. And that's really what all the appeals are for. But this one in particular, you need to eat. So a lot of commercials, like for food, they don't really even go into any kind of like trying to get you emotionally. They're basically saying, look, we know you need to eat, so if you're going to eat, why not use our product? Why not use why not eat White Castle burgers as opposed to something else? There's a logicalness to that we know you need to do certain things. Almost every household uses Kleenex or tissue. So we might just have a logical appeal. We're going to tell you it's softer than others and things like that. But the logic is almost every household uses this product. So, they don't hit you over the head with saying, you have to use it, so why not us? But there's just a certain understood logic that these are certain products or services that you're going to end up using, and we want to let you know that we have it and we think you should try ours. But what we really, so we see that some, but and more than the ethical appeal. But this one, the emotional appeal, that's really what we're dealing with when it comes to radio and TV commercials and PSAs. We generally try to appeal to people's emotions because, again, if we can reach them inside emotionally, there's a much better chance that they will make a connection with our product or our business or our cause or issue if it's a PSA. And then they are more apt to buy our product or to visit our store or maybe to donate or volunteer for our service. So you see emotional appeals in most commercials. That's why we use music, that's why we use humor, because we want to make people fond of this, to remember this old song. That makes them feel good. Humor makes people feel good. We can do an issue for a PSA and make people feel angry or make people feel, that isn't right, I want to get involved. So we do see emotion as an appeal more often than anything else. Something can have more than one appeal. It can be an emotional appeal and a logical appeal. It can be an emotional appeal and an ethical appeal. A lot of PSAs would be like that. But if a commercial were to stand out and only have one appeal, it's probably going to be the emotional appeal, more so than the logical, and then less so the ethical. So that's really what we're going to look at for this quiz. Everything on these slides, and I'll put these slides on Blackboard too. So it didn't answer everything, but watch the video, and if you need to stop and check out an answer or whatever, you can do that. But nothing that I just went over will not be on the quiz. Okay, so virtually every slide here basically relates to a question in some manner, in some form. It might not be exactly verbatim. So if you know what I just went over, and I did go over virtually all of them, just a couple that I hope that you know the answers, or I'm going to hope that if you didn't, that you'll somehow seek out those answers, even if it's getting in touch with me on Monday, that you guys will do really well. So let me just quickly say, so this quiz will be worth 50 points. To put that in perspective, your radio commercial was worth 10, your PSA was worth 10, your local TV commercial is worth 10, your first national TV commercial is worth 10, and then your national commercial with the storyboard is going to be worth 20. So in this section we have 110 points, and so the quiz is 50 of the 110, so it's not quite 50%, but it's a huge chunk. So I certainly hope that everybody does watch this video and goes back over the PowerPoint slides and does really well. So we will do that. We will have that quiz on Tuesday, but don't forget you also have 2 commercials due. You have your national TV commercial, and then you have a second national TV commercial with the storyboard. And on the project with the storyboard, I want you to write on the back those 4 questions that they were in the other video. I'm going to remind you right now. But who is my target audience? What kind of programming or network do I visualize, do I envision this commercial going into? Do I think this is the kind of target audience for Empire or for Modern Family or for the NFL or the NBA? The third question is, from the last couple slides, we looked at what is the kind of persuasion, what's the type of persuasion. Is this a dramatization? Is it using humor? Is music going to be a big part of it? But how do I foresee it that I'm persuading the audience? And then what is the appeal? What kind of appeal am I trying to get in the audience? So is it a logical appeal? Is it an ethical appeal? Is it an emotional appeal? Okay, so those 2 assignments and this quiz. So I suspect everybody will do well on the quiz. If you have any questions, just get in touch with me on Monday, and I'll see you in class on Tuesday.